Hello, grade 12s. We're returning to analysis and interpretation of financial statements. Today we're doing prepare the lesson for task 4.10 from the textbook. The task is on gearing and the return on total capital employed. The debt equity ratio together with the return on total capital employed help you to answer questions on whether a company should take out an additional loan or whether the loan needs to be repaid. Often these questions are phrased with the words risk and gearing in them. So this is the question we're going to do, task 4.10. You can then do task 4.11 by yourselves, which is obviously again very similar. Okay, so we've got information for Daystar Limited for 20.3 and 20.2. Okay, and we're calculating the debt equity ratio for both years. The debt equity ratio is the ratio that you've done last year. Last year, the formula was non-current liabilities is to partners' equity. And now obviously this year, it's non-current liabilities is to shareholders' equity. Liabilities, don't spell it incorrectly. Remember that the formula will be given to you in your TSM exam. On the formula sheet, however, it will not be labeled as a debt equity ratio. So you still need to know which formula to use when you're asked to calculate something. Okay, so we're going to start here with, let's fix this. Sorry, I'm OCD like that. Okay, and then let's start. Okay, so non-current liabilities can also be a mortgage loan or any loan the company has. In this question, it's called non-current liabilities. For 20.3, it's 400,000. Okay, and the shareholders' equity is, remember, shareholders' equity is ordinary share. I'm just going to put a little note here for you so that you remember, but it's ordinary share capital plus retained income. Okay, so shareholders' equity. This question's given us the total of the ordinary share capital and the retained income, which is 1.4 million. So already looking at this ratio, you can see that this company has been financed more by its shareholders than from external borrowing. Okay, so the risk is already lower. Remember, risk refers to how much of loans are being utilized by a company. And when more loans are utilized, the company is at a higher risk because of the loan repayments and because of the interest. Okay, like with the other ratios, we want to make the right-hand side become 1. So we're going to divide the left-hand side by the right-hand side. So we'll take 400,000 and divide by 1.4 million. Okay, so the answer is 0.3:1. We're going to do the same thing for the previous year because this question asks us to do it for both years. In 20.2, the non-current liability is 900,000. Can you see that it was actually much higher? So that means that during the current year, the loan was probably repaid. Okay, and the shareholders' equity is 1.1 million. Okay, so this company has actually repaid its loan and therefore reduced the risk it was exposed to with regard to interest and loan repayments. 0.8:1. Okay. Now there is a norm for this ratio, which is 0.5:1. So the norm is 0.5:1. So generally, if the ratio is higher than the norm of 0.5:1, then we say that they are at a higher risk. But if it is lower than 0.5:1, then the risk is reasonable and they can actually borrow additional funds. So it just depends on the question. Okay, but we don't put the norm at 0.5:1 in the question, but it's something you can keep as a benchmark in your head when you're answering the question. Okay, 0.5:1. Okay, the next, so generally our questions will always ask us something to the effect, should the directors are thinking of borrowing additional money from the bank, do you think it's a good idea? And so we look at the debt equity ratio firstly. In this case here, they can borrow additional funds because the debt equity ratio is indicating low risk of 0.3:1. Okay, but in conjunction with that, we also look at the return on total capital employed to see whether they can afford the interest and the loan repayments. Okay, so this formula here, we also did this last year, but the formula was slightly different. Okay, so here we're going to say net profit before interest and tax. Last year it was just net profit before interest, as the partnership's financial statements didn't have any tax. Okay, and we're going to divide that by average capital employed. I put a note on the side here of different ways of how you calculate it. So for the numerator, we say net profit before tax, which we can get from the income statement, and we add back the interest expense. The average capital employed will be the last year's shareholders' equity and non-current liability together, plus this year's shareholders' equity and non-current liability. Okay, you will see that as we do the example. Okay, so the net profit before tax has been given to us in the question, 110,000. Okay, and the interest on loans has also been given to us. Now, usually the interest is subtracted to arrive at the net profit. So now we're going to add it back, okay, in order to remove the effect of the interest. So we have 110,000 plus 104,000 for the numerator. Okay, for the denominator, okay, we're going to have quite a few figures we need to add up. Okay, so shareholders' equity has been given to us in this question, and we've also got the non-current liabilities. We have two figures from 20.2 and two figures from 20.3. We're going to add them all up and divide by 2. Okay, so shareholders' equity of 20.2, the order doesn't matter, but you must show all the calculations. So shareholders' equity for 20.2, 1.1 million, plus the loan in 20.2, 900,000. And then we're going to add the shareholders' equity of 1.4 million for 20.3, plus the non-current liability of 400,000 in 20.3. We add all of that up and divide by 2. Okay, when you are done with this answer, you're going to multiply it by 100 because it needs to be a percentage. The reason we know it needs to be a percentage is because it's called return on something. Whenever you see the words return in a formula in accounting, then please know that your final answer must be a percentage. Okay, let's just calculate this. It's going to bring it down. So in exams, you don't have to show this step here. I'm just doing it because I want to show you the answers. But this step here is very important. This is where all your marks will be. Okay, so this one is very important. I'm highlighting it in yellow. Let's remove that. Okay, and we're going to multiply this by 100. Let's work out our final answer. Okay, so 214,000 divided by 1.9 million and multiplied by 100. Change the color there. Okay, 11.3%. Remember, we need one decimal place. Okay, so that's a percentage. There we are. Okay, so 11.3%. Okay, now the return on capital employed. I'm just going to put a note here. We have to always compare to the interest rate on loan. Okay, now this question here, we haven't been given the actual interest rate on loan. I have no idea why, okay? But basically, we compare to the interest rate on loan. If it is greater than the interest rate on loan, okay, so if it's greater than the interest rate on loan, okay, we say that the company is positively geared. Okay, and if they are positively geared, that means that you can say yes to additional loans. Okay, and the reason you can say yes to additional loans is because they can afford the interest and loan repayments. Yes. Okay, so then we have the other end of the stick. So when we compare to the interest rate on loan, if it is less than the interest rate on loan, Okay, then it's going to be negatively geared. Okay, we will say no to additional loans. And in this case, we should actually say that current loans must be repaid as soon as possible. Okay, the reason is that they obviously cannot afford interest and loan repayments. Okay, these two ratios are very important. They come up in exams all the time, and they're often for quite a few marks, even up to 10 marks. So it's very important that you know them very well and you know how to comment on them. Okay, in 4.10.3, it does ask you to comment briefly on your results. I've given you quite a bit of information already, especially for the return on total capital employed. It's a little bit tricky because we don't actually have the interest rate on the loan. Okay, but let us assume that it is, okay, let's carry on with the comments of the debt equity ratio. Okay, so for the debt equity ratio, okay, so you can say the debt equity ratio, do you remember that it actually decreased from the previous year? So we're going to say it has decreased from, okay, I can't remember what that was. Okay, so it has decreased from 0,8 to 0,3. To 0,3:1. Okay, the company is lowly geared. As the loan has been repaid during the year. Okay, we can also say that the company is financed by 30% debt. Sorry. There's 30 cents debt for every rand, 1 rand of equity. Okay, so you can see that this company, the risk is lower because the loan is lower than the equity. Okay, with the return on capital employed, we can't comment on it because we don't actually have the interest rate on the loan. But in a lot of questions, the interest rate on the loan can be 12% or 15%. And the return on total capital employed that we've calculated is 11,3%. So you can actually see that it is quite low. Okay, so we can just say that the return on total capital employed is only 11.3%. But when you're answering comments on questions, you must always bring in the figures of your calculations. Even if those figures may not be correct, you always bring them in. Okay, so return on capital employed is only 11.3%. Okay, and so this is probably lower than the interest rate on loan. Lower than the interest rate on the loan. Okay, the directors should consider the cash flow and try to repay the loan as soon as possible. To avoid missing future payments. Okay, so that's all for this question here. I'm going to try and upload this video to YouTube, and I will also send you this spreadsheet in the group. Okay, this is task 4.10. Please complete task 4.11 as homework. You will find that it's very similar to this task, and you can send it to me on WhatsApp. Thank you. Bye.